Aloha everybody, how are you? Okay, I'm wearing my Hawaii hat. So today is time to talk a little bit about some connections I have found between Japanese and Pidgin English, plus a little Jay Jarman story, okay? Thank you for all your great reactions, and I'm really glad you like this. And I'm trying to add in some more like actual Japanese, like the other day we did kusai and nioi and kaoru, right? And then one of the comments was, somebody says about natto, chotto nigate desu. That's good too. Nigate means like, I don't really love it, you know? And so that's a good way of saying, I don't really love natto in a nice way. So nigate desu would be like above in the positive area, which we like to stay in when we're speaking Japanese, right? Because when you're speaking a language as a second language, it's very easy to fall into the negative side without even realizing it. Because in Japan, it's high context communication. So everybody's always trying to, Japanese people don't even realize they're doing it. But it's kind of like Hawaii, actually, how we communicate there too. Japanese people are always trying to figure out what you're really saying. So you might be saying, natto wa chotto nigate desu. I don't love natto. Which means to a Japanese ear, she hates it, right? So she's really saying that she hates it. So you have to be, what I always try to do is be very careful about keeping words in the positive zone. Because no matter what kind of comment it is, it might be thought of as possibly opposite of what you're saying. And you can have miscommunication there. Okay, so the word that I would like to talk about today is are. Are dayo. Are. Are, I really believe, is the base of the Kine in Hawaii, okay? So when you hear somebody speaking Japanese and they're like, are ga chotto oki yo ne, are dayo ne, like that. It's kind of like that, but it's not saying what it is. Are, ne? Are dayo. Are dayo is like when you're trying to remember what you're looking for. Like if somebody said to you, "Nani o sagashiteru no?" What are you looking for? You would say, "Are dayo, are dayo," meaning, you know, that thing, meaning the kind, right? The kind is sort of like that thing, okay? So, are. So probably all of you guys have heard the word are, like are ga oki, that's big, or are ga chotto, that's a big comment right there. Are ga chotto, means I don't know if I'm really liking that. Okay? So that's like giving a comment that isn't necessarily on the super positive side, which is always a good way to do it. Okay? So are is one, and then like we did with kusai, nioi, and kaori, I would like to add to your vocabulary another type of are that is often used in business. So you might hear, maybe if you watch the Japanese news, which is a really good way to do it, or maybe if you watch Japanese dramas, or maybe if you watch, I'm not sure if they have it in jidaigeki, but maybe they do, but something I found very convenient in Japanese is rei no ken. Rei no ken. Rei no ken is the kanji, is the Chinese character for example. Rei. Tatoeba. Rei. Rei no ken means that issue. Kind of like a business version of the kind. Okay? So when you are calling somebody on the phone about, you know, and in Japan, in business, it is very important to use the phone because people in Japan like the direct communication through voice and face-to-face simply because it's a very high context communication style. So there's a lot of communication happening without words. So it's actually it's much easier for someone conversing in Japanese to be in front of the person they're speaking to, or at least be on the phone, they can hear the voice because you can gather some nuances in how somebody's saying it, right, on the phone. So like, for instance, if I was calling somebody, the first thing you say is, domo, Jarman International no Lucy desu. And I always try to keep a smile on my face when I'm calling because it comes through in your voice, right? If you're smiling. So I say, Jarman International, this is Ruth from Jarman International. いつもお世話になっております。いつもお世話になっております is like what you say in business, the first thing you always say. Even in a mail, you would write いつもお世話になっております meaning thank you for all your help all the time. Thank you for being in my corporate life. It's something like that. It's a nice greeting. いつもお世話になっております. And then they would say, yeah, こちらこそ from us to you. いつもお世話になっております。ありがとうございます。One thing I learned the other day, when you use こちらこそ, always add ありがとうございます。That's the proper way. So, こちらこそ、いつもお世話になっております。ありがとうございます。So, if you say こちらこそ, no, from, likewise, right? Likewise. Just こちらこそ without the ありがとうございます can sound a little bit abrupt and rude. I don't know if somebody correct me if this is totally wrong, but I was told that こちらこそいつもありがとうございます。いつもありがとうございます。いつもお世話になっております。ありがとうございます。ありがとうございます adding to こちらこそ is really important. So they would say こちらこそいつもお世話になっております。ありがとうございます。今日暑いですね。They usually say something about, if this is a customer that you deal with on a regular basis, they'll say something like, wow, today's really hot. And you say, そうなんです、もう嫌になりますよね. Like, I can't stand it. So, talking about something, remember we learned last time, if you're talking about something in the third person, or if you're talking about yourself, you can say a negative thing, like, 嫌になりますね means, oh, I'm suffering in the heat. And it's okay to say that, right? So, you would never say, 日本の夏は暑すぎる. You would never say that. Because that is now criticizing Japan. So what you say is Japan, that was 日本の夏は暑すぎる means Japanese summers are too hot. No, we never want to say that. We always want to say ちょっと嫌になりますよね、暑すぎて like about yourself, right? Because that's always the golden rule, okay? I'm sorry this is getting long, but I love talking about this stuff. I want to do more of these. Anyway, so then they say 暑いですね and we say 暑いですね something about weather. And then you say さて例の件ですけど例の件なんですけど例の件ですが like that issue in total pidgin English should be like about the Kine regarding the Kine, right? But 例の件 is like super business Japanese. So you can say 例の件ですけどいろいろ検討した結果今回はちょっと見送ることになったんですけどあんまり嬉しいお知らせではないんですけど Did you hear how I just said that? So you would say 例の件ですけど regarding the kind of the other day, which is some business thing that you must have been talking about with that person, 検討のいろいろと検討の結果various as a result of various consideration いろいろと検討の結果、見送る You could even say あいにく there あいにく見送ることになりましたあいにく means like I really want to do it but for unforeseen circumstances outside circumstances like I think it's a good idea but outside circumstances あいにく見送ることになりました見送る means to like postpone is basically meaning you're not going to do it in Japan. Seriously. So if somebody says postpone, I think with the Olympics, it is postponed, and I really think that the drive is still to have it. But I think a lot of Japanese people, when they hear the word enki or postpone, miokuru is a little bit different. It's like a less heavy postpone. But enki is like, delay or something. So when you hear the word enki, it's almost like the buffer word to say before cancel. So I bet you a lot of people in Japan are thinking the Olympics is not going to happen. But, from my point of view, I would think there is still maybe a 50% possibility it is going to happen. So these words, they can make a lot of difference, right? 見送ることになりました。大変申し訳ありません。We've decided to postpone this, and it's not a very happy thing that I'm telling you, and I'm very sorry about this. So that's how the conversation would go. So if you hear 例の件 about that dakain in business Japanese, that's what it means. Rei is example, ken means issue or item or something. So rei no ken is very, very good. And then also ainiku, we just covered that in Easy Japanese for Work the other day, which is on NHK World. You guys should watch, I'm on that. And we talked about ainiku and what that means. I think that's coming out in October. But yeah, so rei no ken is very, very convenient. And instead of saying are desu kedo doesn't sound very business-like. You would say rei no ken desu kedo or rei no ken desu ga or something like that. Rei no ken is a very business-like use of the concept of dakain in Japanese. So I hope you can use it. And speaking of like vague speaking, like dakain, I bet you a lot of you guys will remember that my dad, he would do all these skits at Kalihi Union Church, and then even after that, like these crazy skits, like they would do this thing called Camp a Week, where we should actually do this now with COVID, because what they would do is, you know how camps are really fun, right? So we used to have at Kalihi Union Church maybe a camp, like a youth camp, once a year or twice a year, and my dad was like, dude, let's do it every week. Let's do something called Camp a Week. So if I remember correctly, you guys got to correct me, but if I remember correctly, we went down to Kalihi Union Church, and it was divided into 3 parts, like 1 hour of singing and stuff, another hour of Bible study, and then the final hour was like food and crazy stuff. And it was basically like a little camp on a Friday night, like 3 hours, to give everybody something to do on Friday night that's really fun and good for your brain and your soul and your health, and you're laughing out loud and being really loud in the gym. And we would do like country dancing. Do you guys remember that? We would do country dancing in the gymnasium where my dad went to the bathroom once he figured out he was picking his nose with bug poison on it. Yeah, that's a different show, so you should watch that again. But it was so much fun. So like the skits that they would do, they would always do a skit after the meal, and we would always have like chili rice or something like that for the food. And then my dad then would get up and do like these funny skits. And one of the skits I remember that was really like typical of high context, funny conversation is they're doing the play-by-play for baseball, okay? And my dad and his friend would be talking like they're the announcers, right? And he would say, who is on first base? Who is on first base? Who has now come up to first base? And then his friend would say, no, it would be like, who is on first base? And then the friend would say, what? And my dad would say, no, who is on first base? And the other guy would say, what? And then he would say, who is on first base? So basically, I think this is an old joke. I don't know where it's from. But they would go on and on. And I think somehow they included when and why. So that it's like so confusing. So who is the guy's name? No. Who is on first base is the question. And what is the guy's name, right? And so it was just like so funny to watch people. And you understand what's going on, but to watch these two present a situation of like serious miscommunication and how words can really like muddy the communication process. So that's something I actually like link back to Japanese and also even to Pidgin English, the way that we talk in Japan. They call it tomawashi, which is how you sort of speak around the topic. And then the other person kind of guesses what you're trying to say, and it sort of like grows as a group conversation. So when I went to Boston for college, that's how I would speak. It was very hard for me to like directly say, I don't want to go. It would be much more comfortable for me to say, I don't know, like that. I think that we really talk like that in Hawaii. Like, I don't know. You don't really want to say no. You feel bad. But I don't know basically means no, which is exactly the same as Japanese, right? So watching my dad and his fellow pastors doing the who's on first base, that's really fun. And he did like boxers, and there was some that were kind of politically incorrect, which they probably can't do now. So I think all of us in our brain, even though when we look back, we think maybe that wasn't that, we shouldn't have teased like that. But I mean, in Hawaii, we tease everybody all the time. It's just with changing times, you have to change your humor, right? So anyway, so who's on first base? That's a really, really good memory. If any of you guys have any of these little stories of skits you remember that my dad did, please put it in the comments. I'd really like to hear from you. And also, my dad is loving these videos, even though he says, he told his wife, he said, oh my gosh, Ruthie's totally ruining my reputation. And then his wife said, what reputation? Well, no, I actually feel like I'm building it because we can remember all the wonderful times of the Hanabara days, okay? And we can find joy in that, and right now we need some joy. So I hope to see you guys again soon, and much love to all of you. Aloha from Japan to all the peeps in Hawaii, and have a great day. Aloha!